Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Fronteras, a Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno. Since President Donald Trump took office, he has announced executive actions to address immigration enforcement, border security, and asylum in the country. Joining us now to get a better understanding about changes to U.S. immigration and nationality law is attorney Christian Zeller. He is the managing partner at Maney, Gordon & Zeller, PA in Tampa, Florida. Mr. Zeller has many legal honors and has authored a number of articles related to immigration and nationality topics. Mr. Zeller, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're visiting NMSU. You provide immigration legal services to the university. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yes, we do. Our firm has represented NMSU for the better part of 13 or 14 years now, and we help the foreign national faculty to come to the United States, to be applied for their visas, get them processed, make sure they can come to the United States on time. And of course, we teach the foreign national students here at NMSU about their student status, make sure that they remain in compliant, teach them how to go on after they graduate, how to get a visa, how to stay in the country, how to maybe become a permanent resident or even citizen.
Are you getting more questions from foreign students who are here at NMSU than maybe you have in the past?
I think ever since the most recent election, we have gotten many more questions of people trying, to stay in compliance, asking us what they must do.
I want to talk about a number of issues with you, and one of those is temporary protected status, TPS. Can you share with us a little bit about what are the major changes with this program right now?
TPS is an interesting thing. It's issued by way of discretion by the Attorney General, and it's given to nationals of countries that have some unrest or something going on that would not allow those folks to go back to those countries. So it's a great benefit to have. But recently, a lot of the TPS has been either revoked or it has been shortened. Most recently, we have heard about Haiti TPS being canceled. I think it's running out on or about August 3rd of this year. Venezuelan TPS has been canceled. You may recall that President Biden has still extended the TPS for Venezuelan nationals just before he left office, but when the new administration came in, Mr. Trump had canceled that. So unfortunately, those work authorizations will be running out on or about April 3rd of this year, so just in a few days from now. And we have not heard about the other TPS designations yet. So there's a possibility that they get revoked or they just run out.
For some of those folks who are under TPS and may have their status expiring or the program expiring, what are some of the things that they should consider?
Many of them already have considered alternative routes. Many have applied for asylum. These applications remain pending. I can only recommend, if you have a U.S. family, talk to your family. Maybe there's a possibility to immigrate through that route. All TPS people typically have employment authorization, so we know they're all working. Speak to your employer. Your employer may be able to help. So that's just about as much as you can do.
What sort of challenges may this cancellation pose on those who may be here in the country, if these things do expire and they're still here in the country?
I think the challenges are twofold, Anthony. One, the applicants who are in TPS and their employers. Employers will no doubt, experience a business interruption if those folks no longer are allowed to work in the United States legally. And the real interruption is, of course, to the beneficiaries who hold that, because there's absolutely nothing they can do. If their status runs out, they become undocumented and have no choice but to leave the U.S.
Is there anything that Congress can do to address this issue?
Yes. All of our immigration laws are really legislated by Congress. All we have seen in the last decade, if you so will, are executive orders, and executive orders only go so far. But immigration laws need to be legislated, and of course there are good ideas on the Democratic side, there are good ideas on the Republican side, but for some reason the two houses are unable to come to a consensus there. But yes, it will take Congress to make significant change.
I want to move on and talk about another issue, DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program that President Obama signed into order in 2012. This has been a program that has been challenged many times in the courts. Then President Obama said this was something that he hoped Congress would take up and put a permanent fix on this issue when it comes to immigration reform. We haven't seen that happen in Congress. As you mentioned, there's been a number of proposals, but there hasn't been any answers or solutions signed into law. But can you give us an update on where DACA is right now?
Well, DACA has been on a lifeline since 2012, and as you mentioned correctly, the courts have come and gone on this over and again. But right now, we have a decision from just a few days ago that people may apply for DACA again. But the downside is new applications will be accepted, but they will be held in abeyance at the immigration services. So while you can apply as a new DACA applicant, it's not going to go anywhere. But existing DACA applicants may, of course, continue to renew their DACA status, including their employment authorization. The USCIS has not published what they will do yet. So please take with a grain of salt what I've just said, but we should hear about that either today or tomorrow by the latest.
Is this something that you think eventually is going to end up again before the Supreme Court?
I think that's where it will end up. The good news, I think, is that there is a willingness on both political aisles to do something about DACA. Also, Mr. Trump, during his campaign and even after taking office, has not lashed out against DACA, has really been for DACA in a sense, if I may say so. I think he said we got to do something about the Dreamers. So we'll see.
Now, can you give us an understanding about just how many thousands of people are really under DACA right now and protected by DACA?
The word on the street is about 800,000.
Okay. Now, these are folks who aren't really, time has gone by. They may have gotten to the program when they were teenagers or in their 20s, and now they may have families, and now they may have a home that they may have purchased. Can you share with us a little bit about how DACA legally has been able to not only protect them from deportation, but also allow them to work here in the U.S. and work jobs that, maybe have made an impact to themselves and their families financially?
Well, the way they are able to stay is through that executive order, and that's really all it is. And as you initially mentioned, it's deferred action against deportation, and that's what it is. So we're just kicking the can down the road, and that's within the authority of the executive to grant deferred action on anyone who ought to be deported. And that's exactly how DACA is being kept alive, by continuing to renew just that deferred action. And that allows you, because all these folks were allowed to get employment authorization, that's why they can go to work. They are from construction to doctors and nurses. They're in every industry, paying billions of dollars in taxes, and like you said correctly, building homes, buying houses, and having their families here, and always, unfortunately, having to look over their shoulder, not knowing what's next.
There is something there, that you just mentioned, is many of the folks who are in the DACA program and protected by it, and they've voiced this to us in our reporting, is they felt that they're in limbo in some ways. And if DACA goes away, they have some very difficult choices to make. Can you give us kind of an understanding of just really what's at stake?
Well, hopefully DACA is not going to go away. And what's at stake is, if you fall out of status, if your DACA were canceled and you have no more status, then you're subject to removal. And the downside is, of course, also that you are a registered individual. Your fingerprints are on file, your name is on file, and so is your address. So, there's nothing easier for ICE than to pick up a DACA person. But there are some DACA folks who came here very young and who got their DACA status very young. They may have an opportunity to get their immigration status another way, because they have legally not accrued any unlawful presence for purposes of staying here if they were under the age of 18. Of course, most of them were older than that, and I just don't have an answer for that.
I want to move on and talk about another issue with what we've seen with the visas being revoked and the topic around that issue. Can you kind of give us an understanding about what's going on with that, and how concerned are, perhaps some of the students that you may talk to about their visas getting revoked right now?
Visas have always been revoked, so this is nothing new. It's that it's now in the press and that it's at the forefront. That's what's different. Are more visas revoked than in the past? Likely. What's happening is the State Department has begun to scour social media posts from student visa holders or anyone holding a visa basically, and is looking for deficiencies, and is looking for into the past of people, or who they like, or what they advertise online. And if that crosses a certain line, then your visa can be revoked without more.
This is from what you mentioned, and what's been reported is we've seen some talk about people supporting a certain group, or perhaps being involved in protests on campus. There may be a ripple effect on their status that could impact their visa status. Is that what you're getting at?
That's exactly what I'm getting at. Now, I have obviously we are talking about the same case here. I have no opinion on the particulars of the case because I don't know all the details, but that you cannot support a terrorist group and remain in the United States, that's in our laws. That's in our immigration laws. There is no ifs or buts about that. And it appears that in this particular case, there have been social media posts, or there's other documentation public that apparently that's what happened, and that will lead to a revocation of a visa or green card.
Yeah, we mentioned the case you mentioned, I believe you are mentioning, is a recent graduate student at Columbia University, a green card holder who was arrested by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers, because of participating in a protest. I mean, there's still details we don't know fully about that issue. But what do you think, as an attorney, as somebody practicing law, what does that perhaps mean to free speech on college campuses, where we often see protests about a wide range of issues?
Well, free speech does not end at the door of the college campus. I mean, free speech ought to be all across the nation, and so it is. We don't know at this juncture whether this case is a question of free speech or whether there is another issue behind it. So, of course, as attorneys, we always will defend free speech. There's no question about that. But I am not sure whether this particular case is a free speech case.
How do you see what may happen with visas moving forward this year, or what sort of signs have you seen from Washington and the administration about what's going to happen with visas for foreign nationals moving forward, whether it's student visas, whether it's work visas? What are some things that you think people ought to know about with the perhaps upcoming changes we may experience this year?
Planning is going to be everything. There will be, or already is, extreme vetting at our consulates overseas. You've also heard about all the terminations within the federal government. That also includes our Department of State. So there are some visa officers who are no longer there. Some of our consulates overseas will be closing. So all of this will create, in my opinion at least, a tremendous backlog in getting a visa issued. In addition to that, we will see more administrative processing where the backgrounds of visa applicants will be checked more thoroughly. There could be almost like a re-adjudication of your visa upon entry to the United States by Customs and Border Protection. So being vigilant, answering questions on forms honestly, and planning accordingly, that would be my advice.
Now, you are here on campus providing immigration and legal services to NMSU. Are you seeing, with the work you're doing, that student visas the application for those are going up, or are they going down now?
I am not aware that they're going down. I think what will be going up are waiting periods. Students not being able to show up for classes on time, maybe because they can't get an appointment for a visa overseas. And then, of course, we have many students who potentially come from travel ban countries where no visas may be issued in the future. But the verdict on that is still out.
Now, you mentioned travel bans. There's a lot of questions about that issue right now. That there's been a lot of reporting about what the Trump administration may roll out in regards to a new travel ban for countries. Do you have any insight or knowledge about what we may see with potential travel bans right now?
Well, a list has been published, I believe, about 43 countries, and it's almost like a traffic light. There's the red countries, which are supposedly the sponsors of state terrorism, which there will be an absolute travel ban. And then there's high-risk countries, a whole list of those, and then lesser risk. And we do not know what the current administration requires from these countries to get off that list. It's my understanding some of the Caribbean islands are on that, and they have already contacted the administration to find out what do we need to do so our citizens can continue to travel to the U.S. But we have no details on that yet.
There's been a lot of reporting on U.S. citizens or nonprofits working to get people from Afghanistan to the U.S., people who may have helped the United States while they were in that country and assisted the military, and they may be in life or death situations, and they've been working to get those folks over to the U.S. Do you see these potential travel bans impacting that country and that effort?
It will definitely impact Afghanistan, and yes, it already impacts Afghan refugees and what we refer to as special immigrants. All of those have already been extremely vetted and been cleared, but they have not been given travel authorization at this point. We don't know what will happen to them.
I see. Any other things with travel bans do you think that folks really should know about in regards to how this may impact just other issues in the world, perhaps world health, perhaps global journalism, understanding what's going on in the world? Do you see that potentially making an impact on us getting more information and also addressing public health needs across the world?
Well, public health needs, of course, that falls under USAID. I'm not intimately familiar with these programs, but both you and I know that they have been defunded effectively. That will certainly have a global impact and eventually on the United States. I think the biggest impact we see in our practice at this point is really from a business perspective. The business interruptions that businesses have where they send executives overseas and they're not coming back because of a visa issue no one is aware of. And then, of course, the uncertainty of our immigrant population right here in the United States. There's certainly an impact on that.
I want to talk with you about deportations. Obviously, that's been a high-profile issue in our country since the Trump administration took office, and there's been a lot of reporting about just what's happened. Recently in New Mexico, there's been a lot of reporting about deportations that have happened over the last week in our state. Can you give us an understanding of just where things are right now with these deportation efforts, and what are some of the legal concerns you have with them from what you're seeing?
Our legal concerns are due process, no question about it. And of course, you never read the good in the paper on that. You will always hear about the cases where supposedly due process was not given. Other than that, what we see is the big advertising of the deportations. You may recall under the younger Bush administration, we had deportations advertised of all the raids on the meatpacking plants and what have you, until that administration found out, well, that's not good for us. If it just is not good press. Now we're experiencing the same thing again. I don't know whether there are currently more deportations than in the past. We know that Mr. Obama still holds the record, and he did never advertise deportations, but deported more foreign nationals than any other administration during his time in office. So we don't know where this is going to go. Obviously, what we hear in the news from the administration is no question that deportation of criminal aliens or anyone in the country unauthorized is an absolute priority. But that's of course easier said than done. It takes resources, it takes courts, it takes judges, it takes detention facilities. You can't wrap that up from one day to the next.
Do you have any concerns about U.S. citizens being caught up in these deportations and raids and perhaps being sent to another country?
Happens all the time. Because if there is only a quick cursory review of a file, someone may claim she is a U.S. citizen, and it is not found out why, how, or when, and you may be deported. It has happened before. U.S. citizen veterans have been deported. How
prevalent is that? You said it happens all the time?
Well, of course, we're in this business, so we're on the ground. For the greater public, I would not say it happens all the time. But of course, we always hear about those things, and unfortunately, it just happens.
We live in an area that depends heavily on the agricultural industry. There's a lot of farmers or folks who work in manufacturing who may depend on immigrant work visas for folks to be able to work here in the U.S. in this area. Do you have any updates on just how that may be impacted with this administration, this new administration? You're referring to the H-2B and the H-2A visas. They have not been touched at this point. In fact, we've gotten more H-2B visas, have actually been doubled. What I'm concerned about is the processing and the extreme vetting of individuals, because your winter lettuce is going to go bad if it's not picked timely. So that's really my only concern. The visa category in and of itself, no, it is not. It's got the support of everyone. With the immigration crackdowns that we've seen, and the vetting that goes on, you're kind of also mentioning just how that may have a ripple effect on industries across the country. Can you kind of give us an understanding of just how businesses may be impacted by all these changes? They are severely impacted. We get calls on a daily basis from businesses who either want to help their workforce but can't because there is no legal avenue available, or they are losing their workforce and they ask us, how do we bring people here? It's shutting down the small businesses. That's what it does. I have less than a minute left with you, but I do want to ask you, do you have any major hopes for Congress to actually address some of these issues that we've discussed? Well, the last meaningful immigration reform we had in 1986 under President Reagan, and it did two things. It gave green cards to 3 million undocumented workers, and on the flip side of that was enforcement, the new I-9 employment eligibility verification. So everyone got their green card, but the enforcement never happened. And that's, I truly believe, what got us to today. And the Trump administration is talking about enforcement and securing the border, and then they would be willing to talk about immigration reform. Well, I can call Mr. Trump today and ask him, please declare the border secure, because nobody's coming across right now. So I think we can agree on that. So now is the time, for the Democrats and the Republicans to get together and talk about that immigration reform. But yes, I am hopeful for that. Christian Zeller is managing partner at Maney, Gordon & Zeller. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for having me. We now move on to learn more about an organization in El Paso that's working to promote roller derby in the region. Producer David Vasquez III has more in this Community Connection.
one of those kids that was always on skates, and then when I heard about it as an adult, I mean, being on skates and then hitting people just kind of sounded like fun.
I was a huge fan, and so I used to come to the games here, the Borderland games, and then the team in Las Cruces. And so I figured if I'm always coming to the games, then I might as well just join.
Somebody had said this before, it's like Derby kind of finds you, and I really believe that because it found me. It's all I do, live, eat, breathe, you know?
I mean, at least for me, a lot of times I won't even hear the people cheering because I'm just trying to focus on my team and what they want me to do. But every once in a while, yes, especially if you're the jammer and you're getting cheered on to keep going and scoring the points, it can definitely be a big rush.
We feel like one big family pretty much all the time. We have our individual teams, so there's 4 home teams and 3 travel teams, but we're one big family.
You know, I'm here because it's fun. I'm here because it's a sport. I'm here because I'm with my friends and I love it. I think that's it really. It's just a challenge. I love a challenge. So that's something that really kind of grounds me before a game.
We encourage the community to come because it's something different. A lot of people are just used to like luchadores, soccer, things like that. But I think roller derby, it includes a lot of people. We have a sibling league for borrow skaters from Juarez. So hopefully that draws people in to come and watch them. We have some of them here tonight. They play harder and faster than us, so we love to learn from them.
Oh, definitely. I think we're a family. Like some of these people, besides one, considering them my friends, I really do consider them family because we're out playing and we're close and we're hitting and skating and you get closer and closer. So definitely a family.
What we can bring to the community, it's fun for the entire family, so it's family friendly and it's just fun for everybody to watch. And then if you want to join, most definitely come on down.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Remember, you can always keep updated with news anytime at krwg.org. I'm Anthony Moreno. We'll see you next time on Fronteras, Changing America.